Till now, we have discussed all the years when India was ruled by Nehru. After Nehru's long prime ministership of 15 years, India experienced Lal Bahadur Shastri's short prime ministership of 17 months, from June 1964 to January 1966. In this video, we are going to discuss the events during this period. Death of Nehru created a power vacuum in the Congress party and consequently in India. It was impossible to find another candidate with Nehru's stature. As a result, Game of Thrones began in India to get the post of Prime Minister. As a formality, Gulzarilal Nanda, who was Home Minister in Nehru's cabinet, sworn as an acting Prime Minister while the search for the next Prime Minister was going on. The kingmaker of the next Prime Minister was the group within the Congress party, famously known as the Syndicate. The leader of the syndicate was Congress Party President K. Kamaraj. Other leaders in the syndicate were Sanjeeva Reddy, the future President of India, S. K. Patil, the uncrowned King of Bombay, Atulya Ghosh, boss of Bengal Congress, and S. Nijalingappa, Chief Minister of Karnataka. From 28th May, syndicate began consulting the chief ministers and party bosses on the best person to succeed Nehru. An early name to consider was Morarji Desai, who was the outstanding administrator from Gujarat and had made it clear that he wanted the job. In 4 days, Kamraj met a dozen chief ministers and as many as 200 members of parliament. From his conversations, it became clear that Desai would be a controversial choice as his style was too abrasive. The person most MPs seemed to prefer was Lal Bahadur Shastri, who was not only a fine administrator but also one who was more accessible and from Hindi heartland. It helped that Nehru had come increasingly to rely on Shastri in his last days. These factors all weighed heavily with Kamraj, who was concerned that the succession should signal a certain continuity. Desai was persuaded to withdraw his candidature. On 31st May, the Congress Working Committee approved the choice of Lal Bahadur Shastri. The next day, the appointment was ratified by the Congress Parliamentary Party. On 9th June 1964, Shastri was sworn in as Prime Minister. But it was no easy task for Shastri to govern. Very soon, the new incumbent was asserting his authority. Desai was dropped from the cabinet because he insisted on the number 2 position. There was a clamor to include Nehru's daughter Indira Gandhi. Shastri complied, yet gave her the insignificant information and broadcasting portfolio. Mrs. Gandhi, in turn, forestalled any move by Shastri to move into Teen Murti House, where Nehru had lived as Prime Minister. She proposed that it should be made into a memorial to her father. Kamraj also wanted to maintain his control over the government. Announcing Shastri's elevation to the press, Kamraj had said that the undisputed rule of a great man would now be replaced by a form of collective leadership. Shastri had other ideas. An early innovation was the creation of a separate Prime Minister's Secretariat, where a band of carefully chosen officials would prepare papers on matters of policy. This was not only to fill in the gaps in the Prime Minister's learnings, but also to provide him with an independent, non-partisan source of advice, freeing him of excessive dependence on the cabinet. Just 6 months after assuming the post, Shastri faced his first big challenge, the Tamil challenge. Once again, linguistic chauvinism was resurfacing. On 26 January 1965, a 15-year grace period when English was to be used along with Hindi in communication between the center and the states was getting over. Southern politicians had long been worried about this change. Jawaharlal Nehru had been sensitive to the sentiments of the South, which were shared by the East and Northeast as well. In 1963, he piloted the passing of an Official Languages Act which provided that from 1965 English may still be used along with Hindi in official communication. That caveat proved problematic. While Nehru clarified that may meant shall, other Congress politicians thought it actually meant may not. In 1956, the Academy of Tamil Culture passed a resolution urging that English should continue to be the official language of the Union and the language for communication between the Union and the state governments and between one state government and another. The signatories included C. N. Annadurai, E. V. Ramaswamy Periyar, and C. Rajagopalachari. The organization of the campaign was chiefly the work of the Dravid Munneta Kazham or DMK, which organized many protest meetings against the imposition of Hindi. In the wake of the China War, the DMK had dropped its secessionist plank. It no longer wanted a separate country, but it did want to protect the culture and language of the Tamil people. Shastri and his government stood by the decision to make Hindi official on 26 January. In response, the DMK launched a statewide campaign of protest. In numerous villages, bonfires were made to burn effigies of the Hindi demoness. The books and the relevant pages of the constitution were also burnt. In railway stations and post offices, Hindi signs were removed or blackened over. In towns across the state, there were fierce and sometimes deadly battles between the police and angry students. Few people went on to sacrifice their lives as part of the protest. The Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri was now placed in the hot seat. His heart was with the Hindi zealots. His head, however, urged him to listen to other voices. On 11 February, the resignation of two union ministers from Madras forced his hand. The same evening, the Prime Minister went on All India Radio to convey his deep sense of distress and shock at the tragic events. To remove any misapprehension and misunderstanding, he said he would fully honor Nehru's assurance that English would be used as long as the people wanted. He also assured that the All India Civil Services examination would continue to be concluded in English rather than in Hindi alone. A week later, the issue was discussed vigorously in the parliament, but the issue was settled forever. Let us now look at the highlights of Shastri's years of Prime Ministership. Shastri continued Nehru's socialist economic policies with central planning. He promoted the White Revolution, a national campaign to increase the production and supply of milk by supporting the Amul Milk Cooperative of Anand, Gujarat, and creating the National Dairy Development Board. Another challenge during his period was the chronic food shortages across the country. Shastri urged people to voluntarily give up one meal so that the food saved could be distributed to the affected populace. However, he ensured that he first implemented the system in his own family before appealing to the country. He went on air to appeal to his countrymen to skip one meal per week. The response to his appeal was overwhelming. Even restaurants and eateries downed the shutters on Monday evenings. He motivated the country to maximize the cultivation of food grains by plowing the lawn himself at his official residence in New Delhi. As part of foreign policy, Shastri continued Nehru's policy of non-alignment, but also built closer relations with the Soviet Union. In the aftermath of the Sino-Indian War of 1962 and the formation of military ties between Chinese People's Republic and Pakistan, Shastri government decided to expand the defense budget of India's armed forces. In 1964, Shastri signed an accord with the Sri Lankan Prime Minister Sirimau Bandaranaike regarding the status of Indian Tamils in then Ceylon. This agreement is also known as Sirima Shastri Pact or the Bandaranaike Shastri Pact. Under the terms of this agreement, 6 lakh Indian Tamils were to be repatriated, while 3,75,000 were to be granted Sri Lankan citizenship. This settlement was to be done by 31st October 1981. However, after Shastri's death, by 1981, India had taken only 3 lakh Tamils as repatriates, while Sri Lanka had granted citizenship to only 1,85,000 citizens. Later, India declined to consider any further applications for citizenship, stating that the 1964 agreement had lapsed. Apart from this, he also tried to restore the deteriorated relations between India and Burma. The most important and defining event in his career as a Prime Minister was the crucial role he played in the India-Pakistan War of 1965. We will discuss this event in detail in our next video. It is during this war when he reverberated the famous slogan Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. This event strengthened his position and also restored India's confidence after the defeat in 1962 Sino-Indian War. But he was not fortunate enough to live long with this strengthened position. After the war, he went to Tashkent to sign the declaration with Pakistan. There, Prime Minister Shastri died on 11 January 1966 at 2 am after signing the Tashkent Declaration, reportedly due to the heart attack. But people alleged conspiracy behind his death. After mere 17 months, Gulzarilal Nanda was swearing once again as an acting Prime Minister. Shastri was Prime Minister for only 18 months. But his work was so significant that even today's generation remembers him. In our next video, we will discuss the India-Pakistan War of 1965. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share and comment because discussion is solution. For more discussions, please subscribe our channel.